Hey friends, welcome back to another exciting video. I'm here with a very special guest. You've seen her in one of my other videos at the COP conference. I met Michelle. She's the president of the Society of United Professionals, which is a union and it supports professionals in the nuclear industry and many other industries as well.
Predominantly the energy sector.
Yeah.
So majority of our members are in the energy sector, and end to end, based out of Ontario. We also have a legal sector where we represent legal aid lawyers. But our conversation today is going to be on the energy sector.
Michelle, tell us a little bit about yourself. What got you into society, and tell us a little bit about the value that this society offers to the energy industry.
Absolutely. Been in the sector for about 37 years now. Started up in Northern Ontario. I grew up in Timmins, Ontario. I started in the Power Workers Union. When I got hired up there at the old Ontario Hydro, you automatically became a member of the union. So I was a Power Workers Union for a couple of years, moved to Toronto, and I moved into a job that then put me into the society. 19 years as a society member. I went in the role of delegate in and out of that. And then Hydro One is the company I work for. They went on strike in 2005. We were out on strike for 105 days. Pretty rough strike. The reason behind the strike and the reason why we were out for so long was the employer was coming to us, not changing our collective rights, our terms and conditions of our collective agreement. What they wanted to do was change the conditions for the new people coming in. They wanted to reduce the salary by 10%. They wanted to reduce the pension as well as the benefits. For me, that was just not right. I couldn't see myself working in a company that somebody coming in after me ending up having to get paid less than me. It just didn't sit well with me. So the strike went on. Strike finally ended. About six months later, I got a tap on the shoulder asking if I wanted to be a unit director within the union, within our local bargaining unit. I said, okay. I was just in there temporarily. I haven't looked back since. So I then became the executive vice president of policy, moved into the role of secretary treasurer, and now I'm the president. The benefits I think that we bring to the sector are twofold. We represent the members in the sector. So we get to the bargaining table. We negotiate collective agreements that are beneficial to all the members we represent. We negotiate, as I said, benefits, pension, wages, economic increases. And we got the non-monetary in there that we also negotiate, but those are the three key fundamental pieces we talk about. The other thing we do is a lot of advocacy work, right? We talk to government. We do a lot of lobbying, especially on this particular file when it comes to the nuclear file. One of the benefits I have as the leader of a union is I can say what I want to say. I'm not restrained by companies telling me what I should or shouldn't say. So I think we add some value there. And we're very involved in the labor movement broadly. So we've got a lot of allies. I sit on the Canadian Labour Congress, their Canadian Council. I sit on the Ontario Federation of Labor's board, as well as their executive committee. So we have a lot of friends in labor. Because we're a small union. We're only about almost 10,000 members, but the strength that comes with being part of the broader labor movement is the people that stand behind you.
First of all, let's start off with what is a union for those that are watching. Because I remember going into university, I didn't know anything about unions. I didn't know about worker rights. I didn't know about pensions, especially defined benefit pensions, which are a huge perk in the nuclear energy industry. So let's deep dive into this kind of aspect.
So basically, what happens is you come into the union, and where we have members in the respective areas where we deal with the employers. You come into the union automatically when you get hired, and sometimes you don't know that. You don't realize that. But what the union does is they negotiate the terms and conditions of your employment on behalf of you. So instead of you coming in out of university and you're just trying to find your way in the world, trying to negotiate your own contract might be difficult individually. What we do is we do that on behalf of all the members we represent. And we take care of the important pieces. Like you said, the defined benefit pension plan is key and fundamental. And our sector is probably one of the last sectors that has this kind of a pension plan.
Could you tell us a little bit about what a defined benefit pension is?
It's we call it the cream of the crop, right? That is a pension plan that once you get into an organization and you get your years in, what happens is you get the top notch value for your pension. And coming in as a student, I don't think students think about retiring. They don't think about pension, right? And I was a student, right? So you come in and what you want is what money can I get in my pocket today, right? Because you've got your bills to pay from school, you've got you might be looking to buy a house, maybe a little bit different for you guys today. When I was young, because buying a house was achievable. I don't think it is today for some of the young folks, but you're looking for that quick fix money in your pocket right now. But what you don't look at is the value a pension can bring. Like I said, 37 years in the sector, I'm retiring, and I know that I have a strong pension that I can rely on so that when I do retire, I never have to work again if I don't want to. So that's what the defined benefit pension plan is. When you talk about defined contribution, or you talk about, some companies offer that aren't unionized will offer an RRSP match, not as provided, right? And it's integrated into the broader pension plan of the energy sector as well. So.
Great overview. Just an example for those that are watching. If I continue to work as I am right now, I'm going to be retired by the time I'm around 54, right? Which is pretty good.
It's really good.
And then with that comes almost a full salary of what you made in your last 5 years.
And it's indexed.
What does that mean?
So that means your pension will increase as the cost of living goes up. Right? There's a lot of other unions out there that once they retire, they get that set amount every single month. If they live 15 years beyond retirement, they still get that set amount. And we all know the cost of living increases.
Oh, yeah.
With the pension plans we're engaged with on this an energy file on that sector is their index. So they increase with the cost of living.
Phenomenal. And then there's also the health benefits aspect.
Retirement benefits. So when I retire, I will get benefits for the rest of my life. When I hit 65, the government health benefits will kick in. And so that will get processed, but any of the benefits I have when I leave the company, I'll still maintain them. And that's as long as the bargaining agents that come in after us. That's one of the things I talk about very strongly with folks. When I came in as a young student, the people who were part of the union before me took care of me before I even came into the company. When you're an active member of a union, you've got to take care of the people coming before you, like I did when I was on a picket line, and you have to take care of the people that were there for you and now have retired. Right? Because if you sell each other out, so I retire, and if the next bargaining team comes in and they decide to take away post-retirement benefits for a gain for one of the active members, then you're throwing your folks under the bus. People who took care of you.
Yeah.
Right.
Yeah. So tell us a little bit about that continuity. When did this whole concept of unions start? What's the origins?
Wow, that takes you back. So way back in the day, I'm going to go back to, because I think unions started particularly around health and safety, right? That's when they really started to evolve. And I think, the workers back in the day, I'm thinking the automotive industry, right? That's, Ford and all that. And back in the day, industry workers weren't feeling that they were safe on the job. And that's how, the workers started to stand up. Don't know if you're familiar with the Winnipeg strike back up. It's just over 100 years ago now. And workers just also felt they weren't being treated fairly in the workplace. And irrespective of what industry you worked in, they all walked off the job across the city of Winnipeg, right? That had a huge impact. And then, unionization has its ebbs and flows, right? In certain times when organizations are treating their employees well and paying them well and giving them, what they need to sustain a certain standard of living, you don't need a union in there. But it's when, you see some of the corporate greed that sometimes goes that's out there, and you see, the shareholders wanting to just line their pockets and not give any benefit to the workers. That's where people start to stand up and realize their rights. And I think we're on the verge of a rise in unionism in this country, and in particularly in Ontario. You look at the number of strikes that went on last year. We even had one of our locals out on strike, and we've only had 2 strikes in the 80 years that we've been in existence. So, it's really important that workers are treated fairly in the workplace. And it's really important that employers and government, because government in our sector seem to interject themselves when they feel they need to, they need to start to respect the people, the working people here in Ontario and across Canada.
Completely agree. And this is a message that you never hear online, right? Or anywhere, right? Not in the news, not on any like social media platform. And I love how you're highlighting that, because the reality of the situation is for professionals in Canada that are working here, regardless of industry, they're accountants, they're engineers, they're lawyers. They go into companies and they're literally getting like chump change as raises, and they have to negotiate those. I know my friends are doing that. And so for me, I'm comfortable enough to tell them that, hey, listen, every year I don't have to negotiate a raise. It's just automatically done for me.
Exactly. And it's important to note that when you're coming in as a newly graduated student, that you're not going to pay, you got to look at your full compensation package,
Yeah.
right? So if you're comparing yourself to another colleague who is in a workplace that isn't unionized, what you have to realize is your full compensation package includes your salary, your benefits, and your pension, right? So really what the pension is all about is you make your salary weekly, bi-weekly, whatever. The employer takes out a percentage of that salary and puts it towards your pension. So that is your money. So your salary is going to be a bit less than maybe somebody out there who doesn't have a pension and is just straight salary. So when you've got to compare apples to apples, when people are coming up to you as a person coming into a unionized environment and say, well, I make more than you. But you've got to say, well, hang on. Do you have a pension? Do you have a benefit plan?
Definitely. I completely agree with that. And I find that in this day and age, I find that even our salaries in the energy industry are even higher than those that are non-unionized and in private industries. And sometimes I'm like, okay, win-win.
With what I call the nuclear renaissance happening, it is the working people that are going to have the power.
Yeah.
Right? The resources that are going to be required in order to do the work that's ahead of us, it's the workers that are going to have the leverage here. So, we talk, it's multiple companies across this sector. And, we're fortunate that we are unionized, but there are some of them out there that will be working on some of these projects that aren't unionized, right? So if you're looking to unionize your shop because you're not happy with the way you're being treated, reach out to somebody, talk about it, talk about organizing, right? Because as you said, you don't have to negotiate anything. It's just automatic.
One other topic that I wanted to explore with you is job security, right? So when it comes to private industries or companies out there, especially in Canada, the laws are such that you can get fired for no reason, for no cause, right? And I feel like that's so unfair. There's office politics. You're working with humans, right? And people disagree with each other. We have differences of opinions, and that's healthy. And sometimes having a difference in opinion can get you fired from a job that you may have dedicated maybe 15 to 20 years of your life. And here you are at the age of 50 having to look for new employment. And that's not fair to you or your family. What I love about unions is that they have that level of protection, or they provide that level of protection in terms of job security. So just tell us a little bit about how that works.
So job security is part of the terms and conditions of the collective agreements. And what I will...
What is a collective agreement?
So the collective agreement, some of them can be quite lengthy, depending, back in the days of the old Ontario Hydro, it was quite a large document, right? So the collective agreement outlines the terms and conditions of your employment. So it's like a contract, right? Both parties sign on to it. So the employer signs it as well as the union, right? And both parties have to adhere to the terms and conditions in that collective agreement. So I compare a collective agreement to a contract, but it's a contract for a broader perspective of employees. Yeah, so on the job security front, the employer can't just fire you like that without cause. The other thing in the collective agreement, in most of them, there has to be progressive discipline. before they actually terminate. Now, unless you have done something where the employer feels that you have breached their trust in you, they will terminate you immediately. So time theft is one of them that they might terminate you immediately. But if it's just a job, the performance that you're doing in the job itself, they can't just fire you. So they have to do what we call progressive discipline.
Yeah.
So your manager has to sit you down and say, you did this, this is how it should be done. Once they start documenting it, once they start calling you into meetings with the HR representatives, then your red flags need to go up, because that's when they're taking that path down to progressive discipline. And if they should be offering you opportunities to train if that's required, but they should also be willing to work with you to help you improve on the performance side. So that's what job security is all about. And when you're in a unionized environment, that's what the employer has to do before they can terminate you.
Yeah.
There are instances they can terminate you right there on the spot, but it's not common, especially in our sector.
Just goes to show that relationship, the healthy relationship between employee and employer, right?
Yeah.
And that everyone deserves a fair chance. It's the employees that are running these nuclear facilities. It's the staff members, right? It's the humans that are doing this work at the end of the day, right? We have this technology, but without the humans, it's not going to be running very well.
And a lot of things I like to say to the younger generation is, when you're coming, first of all, engineers come into an organization, they don't even realize they're unionized, right? Because there's been instances where they'll say, oh, I'm an engineer, I can't be unionized, right? But you are unionized, but don't be afraid to talk to your union rep. Because what I will say is, your elected officials that represent you as members, they know that collective agreement inside and out, and they know it better than your manager, right? Because that's what they do every single day. They understand it. So if you've got a red flag going off in your workplace, reach out to your union rep, because they're there to help you. That is their job.
I think this is a really, really good deep dive into the world of unions, especially the Society of United Professionals. So Michelle, tell us a little bit about your vision for society. What's your vision for the next steps? Where do you see this organization going under your leadership?
That's a loaded question, I'll say. As I said at the outset, we represent our membership is about 60% on the nuclear file. But we also represent the folks that work across the sector beyond generation. So we have members that are in transmission and distribution. We have members that are in the regulatory sphere. We have members who are in electrical safety. We also have members on the legal front, and so we have probably, I would say, 14 different collective agreements. And my vision, especially with the nuclear renaissance, is I can see us growing. The province is going to need more workers. The country is going to need more workers. So I can see us doing some expansion and some organizing to make sure that the workers coming into this sector, because you've got the folks out in Western Canada who work in the fossil fuel industry. We're going to start, as we bump up the nuclear, we're going to have less reliance on fossil fuels. What happens to those workers, right? So I'm working with government, I'm working with industry to say we need to find places for them, because the work that they do in the fossil fuel sector is work that is transferable into the nuclear sector. A little bit of upskilling, retraining, and if they're willing to do that, there's work here, because one of the things that keeps me up at night is the resources that we're going to need in order to do the work that's ahead of us. So I think that my vision is we're going to grow, and like I said, we are small, but we're pretty mighty on the labor front.
Phenomenal. I think that vision of growth and that vision of expansion is beneficial for all, right?
Because as unionized workers, we bring up everything for everybody else that is non-unionized. If it wasn't for the contracts we have that pay well, then other unions wouldn't have the leverage to go to their employer to bargain the same. And in the companies where we have members, what happens with is, the management team, they don't have they have individual contracts, but their salaries are based on what we negotiate for our members, right? So yeah, it lifts everybody up.
Absolutely, absolutely. And so like I get a lot of messages, especially on YouTube, from new immigrants to Canada, and they're looking to get into the nuclear energy industry. And so as Canada itself evolves, as more capacity is required at our nuclear facilities, um, we have newcomers, right? And I feel like honestly, a unionized environment is amazing for them, because instead of getting thrown into an environment where they're getting taken advantage of, they're actually getting fair pay, fair compensation. And so, tell us a little bit about your members themselves, right? Who are they, right?
Broad membership, like we always push, at my level and in the conversations I have with government and with the broader labor movement, is we've got to welcome immigrants into the country, right? Because that's going to be one of the channels for job source for the work we have ahead of us. That talent pipeline we're looking for, and we've got to have an open mind about it. Does there need to be more training? Maybe. I don't know. But yeah, we've got to be accepting of that. Um, we have a very diverse membership. Back in the day, I would say, when I first started in the industry, it was predominantly male, right? But I go into a workplace now, or I go to a membership meeting, and very, very diverse membership. One of the things we're proud of at the society is we've set up equity committees for our members who identify as racialized, who are Indigenous, who are women, who have disabilities, and we even have a youth chapter as well as a pensioners chapter, right? So that we can have these folks come together and talk about the issues they may be facing in their workplaces, and those are very helpful.
I love that community energy, right? And
No pun intended.
for sure, no pun intended. Like bringing folks together and making them comfortable to communicate, and just uh, making sure that they feel that their workplace is a good environment for them. So that's phenomenal. And like I really enjoyed this discussion. I think this was very informative. Just a chat that I wish I had like 5 years ago when I came into the industry. And so, is there a last message that you'd like to share with the audience?
Last message is, don't be afraid of the union. The union is there to help you out. You run into trouble with the employer, and it may even just be a conversation. If you're uncomfortable in what you're doing, talk to your union rep. They'll tell you if the employer's violating what we call the collective agreement, right? And then the onus is on you. You own the grievance. So if you want to file a grievance, we'll process that grievance through the steps it goes through, right? But yeah, own it, and don't be afraid to talk to the union. And the other thing I'd like to say is, if you're able to talk to members that work in other organizations where we have the membership, so the event we hosted last night, what I'd like to see is the kind of cross-pollination of people talking outside of the silos, right, of the companies they're working at, right? So because then you can share ideas and you can grow, right? And you that knowledge is really, really important, because back in the day when it was all Ontario Hydro, that was the one-stop shop, right? Now that when the government broke up Ontario Hydro, you've got a lot of different what we call bargaining units, and sometimes you don't have that crosstalk happening.
You mentioned something about grievances, and I think that's one term that I heard getting into the industry. So, what is a grievance, and what is a what does that mean?
Yeah, if a member feels that our members can file a grievance about anything. So you go to your union rep. You may not like the color of the carpet in the building you're in. You can file a complaint there, but that is not captured in the terms and conditions of your collective agreement. So your union rep will say, okay, I can bring it forward, but it's not going to go anywhere. But if you feel that you've been your terms and conditions of your contract have been violated by the employer, that's a grievance. So the member owns that grievance, right? So it goes through a step one where we just we fill out a document. outlining what section of the collective agreement has been violated, and we have that conversation with management. And sometimes they get resolved at step one. If not, then it goes to step two. And once there's money involved, which means we have to take it through an arbitration process, then the society owns that grievance and they will advance it on your behalf. But they always keep in touch with the member to say, this is what's going on, this is how it's being handled. In some instances, grievances can take a long time to go through the process because, the employer, if they don't want to resolve it, they'll find ways to slow down the process. Or in some instances, arbitrators aren't available to hear the case. So we have to wait. And sometimes the complexity of the grievance can take more time to get it through the process. But like I said, just don't be afraid of the union rep because they will guide you down that path.
That's great. That's great. Yeah, it's a good overview and summary of what a grievance is. And it just goes to show that, as an employee, you have some rights, right?
Absolutely.
And if something's off, you can take actions to mitigate that.
Yeah. And that's what unions are all about. It's about fairness and respecting working people.
Absolutely. Well, there you have it. There's Michelle Johnston. You can, in the description below, I'll have some more details about contacts that you can reach out to in case you're interested, if you're an employer or if you're an employee. And also more information about the Society of United Professionals website that you can check out as well. So thanks again for this chat. This was great.
Thank you.
Thank you.